The only way to quiet your mind's defeating thoughts and to quiet your mind's ability to make you feel like shit, you need to treat yourself like you love yourself. That means that you develop habits that are going to make you know inherently, subconsciously, to create that feeling of I love who I am. And once you get to that place, you're going to be the type of person that's going to be okay golfing alone or doing whatever alone. You're not going to feel the need to hang out with somebody all the time. You're not going to feel the need to have a relationship with somebody all the time. Yeah. But it comes down to developing those habits. And then as a result of that, a byproduct is you love yourself, which manifests itself in you're okay being alone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 53 of the Conscious Cast. I'm your host, Cal, along with my other boy, Mr. Jason Scalora.
What's up?
What's up, guys?
What's up, guys?
So, yeah, guys, today we're going to be talking about being comfortable alone, right? Feeling insecure alone versus feeling secure alone. What's the difference? And I think you have a great example to really break this down right now, and then I'll bounce another question.
So yesterday, I sent you an audio message kind of like speaking about the whole thing. Anyways, yesterday I went golfing, and originally I had plans to go with one of my friends, but then last minute he bailed, right? And so I'm sitting in the car all ready to go. I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'll go golfing. And initially I had that feeling in my body of like, it's so annoying, you know? Like we had plans, like I was excited, things were gonna go well, and he just fucking bailed on me. And I had this expectation that things were going to work out some certain way that I wanted them to or wish they would work out. But then when I went there, I realized I'm having a great fucking time. Yeah. Like I had a great time alone. Like I wasn't using my phone. I didn't have music playing. There was no like stimulus. There was nothing. I was just enjoying my time golfing. And what I realized was I had spent 99% of my life prior to personal development always needing somebody else to hang out with in order for me to feel okay. Because every time I was alone, I was bombarded from the thoughts that were self-defeating. And I realized that I'm finally at a point in my life where I'm totally comfortable, and not only just comfortable, but enjoy spending time alone because I love myself. And that's what I realized was it really just comes down to the fact that I love who I am. So I can spend time alone. And even when I had an expectation to go golfing with somebody else, it's okay that they canceled. It's really okay because I'm cool with hanging out with just me, right? And as weird and kind of, I don't know, outlandish as it sounds, you're always hanging out with yourself. If you're not distracted by some external stimulus, whether it's TikTok, social media, or just talking to somebody else, you're always just in your own mind 24/7. And for me, at least in my belief, the only way to quiet your mind's defeating thoughts and to quiet your mind's ability to make you feel like shit, you need to treat yourself like you love yourself. And we talk about this all the time, but that means that you develop habits that are going to make you know inherently, subconsciously, in your to create that feeling of I love who I am. And once you get to that place, you're going to be the type of person that's going to be okay golfing alone or doing whatever alone. You're not going to feel the need to hang out with somebody all the time. You're not going to feel the need to have a relationship with somebody all the time. Yeah. But it comes down to developing those habits. And then as a result of that, a byproduct is you love yourself, which manifests itself in you're okay being alone.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. You personally feeling the need to hang out with someone else, right? Like that's a necessary thing that has to happen in order for you to do that activity, right? And so let's just say your friend bails on you, right, to go out to eat or to go out and do an activity, right? We both experienced this a ton in our lives where it's like, oh my God, my friend, my security blanket's not going to go with me, right? Yeah. It's like, fuck that. I'm not going. If he's not going to make me feel comfortable there, I'm not going, right? And so that entire potential experience and that you potentially going out and doing whatever you were going to do is ruined by the simple fact that you weren't comfortable enough to go alone, right? Yeah. And so I think also, too, it's also in conjunction with feeling the need to go with someone else. I think this goes hand in hand, and maybe indirectly is like implying this, that you fear what other people will think of you if you go by yourself, right? So if someone sees you sitting alone at a cafe, which
That's
I know,
what, yeah.
yeah, and it's like,
That's what it
I
makes me
know
think of.
there's this guy that always comes into the restaurant I work at, and he's always just like, table for one. He just goes down, sits, reads, gets a pizza, like way too many Cokes.
Yeah.
But he just sits there and he reads, and he's so quiet and calm, and he's just, you could tell he's just so secure with himself, and he loves it. Like, I mean, I don't know shit about the dude. Like, he comes in probably like once every 2 weeks, and he does it, and you can tell he likes the food there. And he comes in, he's just so secure with himself, and it's just, especially in types of environments where you, like, for instance, at a restaurant where it's normal to go out to eat with someone else, right? It's that is the norm there, right? And it's like when you're, especially when you're a waiter, right, and someone's coming in by themselves, at least me, I assume that they're coming in for takeout, right? And so when someone says a table for one, I'm like, oh wow, they're coming in by themselves. Like, so I'm kind of, it's like it's a little bit abnormal to me, right? And I think people can feel that, right? And they fear that type of judgment from other people, so they fear potentially the waiter, others around them being like, oh God, this guy's so lame. He's sitting by himself. Like, he doesn't have any friends, like, and all these different types of judgments. But if you are secure with yourself, if you are self-loving, right, and you naturally, right, you develop those inherent subconscious qualities and habits that you naturally just stop caring about what other people think. And I'm not saying you should stop caring completely, but it just gets to a point where you're just so secure with yourself being alone. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's not even in your conscious mind, right? And it doesn't dictate your experience, right? Because some people, even though they do go out by themselves, right, and they should go out by themselves, they'll let that dictate their entire experience. That's all they think about, rather than actually going into the activity itself.
Right. But I mean, and to me, what it comes down to is like, a good example is like at Central, like when we're here and we go, I'm sure a ton of people can relate to this, high school students, college students, whoever, when you go to the lunchroom and, you know, you're sitting by yourself.
Oh, I love doing that. I love it.
Right. I do too. Like, I really look forward to that time, like eating and watching a podcast. I just, like, for me, that's like an essential time, especially when you live on campus. You're always around other people. It's like, give me alone time.
Exactly.
But a lot of people can relate to how I used to be, which was the whole time I would be there, I would just be thinking about what other people were thinking about me.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't have friends that he can sit with at lunch. He lives in a university and he doesn't even have enough friends to go out to lunch or breakfast with, or whatever the fuck I thought that they were thinking of me if I couldn't get somebody to go out to lunch or dinner with me or whatever. Like, whatever they're thinking. But the reason why I felt disturbed by that was because I didn't have a good opinion of myself. Because once you have a good opinion of who you are, you're not reliant, nor do you give a shit about anybody else's opinion of you. You don't.
Yeah.
Because you're full.
Yeah.
You're full. You're not relying on anybody else's positive affirmation to make you feel good about yourself, right? And so you feel okay sitting alone at a lunch table. You feel okay going to a restaurant alone. You feel okay going golfing by yourself. It doesn't bother you because your opinion of yourself is okay, right? And granted, now that you brought this up, it's good because it helps me kind of understand that there's more aspects that go into it than just, you know, developing habits and then loving yourself. It's like, well, yes and no. I feel like now that I say that, it's like, if you love yourself, which comes from building habits, you're not going to care what the people think about you. And you're also going to enjoy time spent alone anyway.
That's why I said earlier, I think it's like implied into like building habits and things like that, because you, like I was going to say this before, you don't naturally, so when you go out to eat by yourself or something like that, right? You're not intentionally going out to eat by yourself. And maybe you are, but like maybe you don't go out to intentionally eat by yourself in order to like consciously stop caring about what other people think, right? You just naturally do it. And it doesn't even you naturally don't care about other people's opinions. Like, you're not intentionally trying to stop caring about other people's opinions, because
nor is that the way to do it.
Yeah, no, because I think you'll actually care more about people's opinions.
Because you're going to be focusing on it more.
And it's literally just like suppressing your thoughts, right? It's like, no, you just gotta observe that type of emotion when it comes up, right? And if it comes up, it comes up, right? But as time goes on and you go out to do something alone, when you, I guess, you feel, because it's out of your comfort zone, right? It's uncomfortable, right? And you're like, your body is in this fight or flight kind of situation, right? And you're like, oh my God, what are people thinking, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like everyone feels it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for instance, like I went to a couple like parties these past couple of weeks, right? And it was like I went to a grad party with a bunch of people I didn't know, and then I went to that party that you invited me to, which a bunch of people I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily comfortable going like immediately to those parties, right?
Right.
But I was secure enough in myself, and I had enough, I guess you could say, self-confidence, self-love in who I was to act authentically in those situations, right? So no matter who I got into a conversation with, I would always be myself. And although like when I'm like sitting alone, or I'm like not necessarily accepted by the crowd, right? I'm still secure with who I am, even though I have those thoughts and those emotions and those feelings coming in, being like, oh my God, Cal, you're so lame. You're not being accepted. Get the fuck out of here, right? Like, Mayday, we're going down.
I mean, it's also different because we're like, we're still young dudes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's way more difficult when you're young.
Yep.
Because you're so conditioned to, for good reason, you're so conditioned to care about what other people think, because that's how you need to know and learn how to properly handle yourself and maneuver your life in society, right? You should care about what other people think because their judgments are what's going to get you to act in a good manner. You know what I mean? Like, share.
Yeah.
Don't steal or hit people when you're angry.
Yeah.
Communicate kindly. Listen. You know what I mean? Like, basic shit. If you didn't feel the judgment that other people are casting on you when you're talking over other people, you just talk over other people, right? That's just one example, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Big tangent, but it's harder for us. But eventually you get to a point where, like, once you're confident in who you are, then you no longer are reliant on anybody's judgment of you for you to feel good, right? And it's not that, like, so for example, let's say I'm just chilling, and it's not that I want time alone. I'm just neutral, and I'm going to go to lunch at the caf. I'd rather go and spend time with you than go alone, right? It would be nicer. It would just be probably more fun, interact, have a good time, whatever.
Yeah.
But if I text you, hey, let's go to the caf, and you say no, it's not that I'm not going to go. I'll still go alone, and I'll still feel good alone. Maybe it would be enhanced if somebody else came over and said, hey, you want to hang out and talk and have a good time at lunch? Sure, that'd be great. That'd be fun. It's a nice addition. But sitting alone doesn't make me feel insecure anymore. It's just, it doesn't, because my opinion of myself is good, right? So it's not always like, nope, going to sit alone so that people know, and I know
That's not intentional.
I'm cool sitting alone because I love myself. And that's how it is.
It's like, it's the belief versus the action.
Yeah,
you know what I
literally.
mean? It's like,
Which is
I love myself.
Which is
No,
ironic.
you're incredibly insecure. Maybe not incredibly, but you're definitely insecure to some extent. And I also think an important well, let me just fix my hat real quick. All right, I think an important thing to note too is to not be too attached to being alone too, because I know this a lot of times. It's like the flip side of this. I love being alone. I love to eat alone, right? And so when someone comes up to me and tries to take that away from me, I'm like, fuck that, right? Like, I want to sit alone, right? And so I think, and this is not exactly one-on-one with what we were just talking about, but I think it's important to note that you have to be flexible, right? You can't be too attached to being alone, right? Like having your alone time, right? Like, do you always want to do things your way, right?
I mean, I sort of disagree with that, to be honest.
No, okay. Let me just finish this point.
No,
real quick.
no. Sorry, no. Continue.
No, but it's, to me, at least, when you become so attached to being alone.
But what do you mean by attached to being alone?
So, like, when someone tries to come up to you and like tries to interfere with your alone time, right? And you're just like super resistant and super attached to it. I think it brings up it brings up a lot of resistance and a lot of pain. I'm not saying you should always welcome people in. I'm not saying you should never say no, but I'm just saying it's important to not be too attached to one way. Just like you shouldn't be too attached to being with a group of friends, right? You should just be as detached from being alone too, because I think you should be flexible in both scenarios.
I get that.
Even though like I was saying before, it's not a parallel example to showing you are secure. I just wanted to point out the simple fact that people can become too, like myself, can become too attached to being alone, and it could actually stray them away from hanging out with people. Like, so for instance, when you said before, like, I plan to go to the calf, right? But would I rather spend time with Cal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, that's the other way around. I would rather spend time with myself as opposed to other people, right? And that's just how I prefer it.
Right, but here's the thing: is like for me, it's like it's not a matter of I just don't really understand the whole attached thing. For me, it's just like if you want to or you don't want to, you should do whatever it is that you want to do, but just understand why.
Yep.
If you want to spend time alone because you just need some alone time. If you're an introvert, you need to recharge your social battery or whatever it is that you got to do. Or for me, if I've just spent too much time around other people and I need to recharge my social battery, even though, I'm significantly more extroverted, that's fine.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes over and say, hey, you want to sit with us? Like, it's going to be like, no, I'm good today. Right now, I just need my own time. Yeah. For me, it's like, I don't think that's like necessarily, even if I need to do that every single morning or every single lunchtime I go to the calf, like, no, I need this time to myself, then like for me, I don't think that's a problem. I just think you always have to understand why you want whatever it is that you want.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think
because for example, if you're an introvert and you need to charge your social battery for you to have a happy day, for lack of a better term, but you're afraid of judgment, which is your reason why, so you go and say yes to when other people want to sit with you when you needed that time to recharge, then you got to be like, okay, I'm attaching myself to hanging out with other people because the reason why is I'm insecure about the judgment of other people, whoever the random kids in the calf or whatever.
So if you're being so what I was kind of getting at was when you constantly want to do one or the other, right? So it's like no matter what, right? Like even if I'm not feeling insecure in this, not even if it's like a case of necessity, like meaning like I need to recharge my batteries, right? Or I need to like go out with someone, right? And kind of like it's like that necessity versus like when something's not a necessity. And I think just when someone is so constantly attached to one lane, right? And they're not necessarily able to veer off into the other one, that's when I find it to be problematic. I don't know. That's just how I view it. But I also get what you're saying with
I think it's a signpost of, hey, you should probably analyze why, right? Because if every single lunchtime you never want to sit with anybody ever, and it never, ever, ever happens, 0% of the time it happens, then it's probably like, hey, you got to figure out why. Like, or if you need to sit with somebody every single time, which is probably a more obvious example for people to like relate to. If you feel the need to sit with somebody every single day and you can never, ever, ever, you never go to lunch. And I know people that do this. They never will go to the calf unless they're going with somebody. Like you will never, ever, ever catch them in their 4 years of college in the calf alone because they're so insecure. Then you got to be like, okay, if you've gone to the calf 0 times alone, you got to take a look at why, right? So if you're a hypothetical example of the typical extrovert and the typical introvert is introvert goes to the lunch table alone 60% of the time and 40% of the time with somebody else, and then it's flipped for the extrovert. If you're veering far on either end, then that's a signpost to look at it. It still might not be a problem. Maybe you just like having your breakfasts alone because it aligns you. For me, like, it's very rare where you'll see me eating breakfast with somebody else because like I just need that time to like get myself primed for the day. So gym, breakfast with the podcast. And I just, for me, I love that. And so maybe 100% of my breakfasts are going to be alone. But for me, that's not an issue. Do you understand what I'm saying? How like looking at the numbers objectively isn't enough. It's a good signpost of, hey, let's dig deeper. But until you dig deeper, you don't really, in my eyes, I don't think you can really decisively say whether or not it's a good or bad thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I talk about this thing I call the 2-minute rule. And the idea is to just take whatever habit you're trying to build and you scale it down to the first 2 minutes. And I had a reader who did something similar to this. He ended up losing over 100 pounds. And one of the ways that he did it was he went to the gym, but he wasn't allowed to stay for longer than 5 minutes. So sounds kind of crazy, but for the first 6 weeks, he went and he showed up and he did like half an exercise, and then he would leave and go home. And to most people, they hear that and they're like, well, it's kind of ridiculous. You're wasting your time. You're not actually going to get in shape from that. But the point is, he was mastering the art of showing up. And a habit has to be established before it can be improved. Until you become the person who shows up every day, there's nothing to optimize. We're so worried about figuring out the best diet plan or the best business idea or the optimal way to, boost my bench press or whatever, that we search for all these perfect plans, but we don't do the thing that is fundamental to all of it, which is just showing up. And the 2-minute rule is one way to do that.
The root of it. It's like if you build this habit.
That's the worst. That is the worst sentence you've ever said while laughing.
If you
you were simultaneously speaking while laughing.
If you want to be okay golfing alone, you need to love yourself. And if you the only way to love yourself is to build habits.
Gotcha.
But the only way to build habits is to master the art of showing up.
Yep.
Like, it sounds like I'm like hopping and hopping and hopping. That's the fucking root of it. It's like, master the art of showing up.
Yep.
That's step 1. Master the art of just showing up. And then you'll have habits that you can build. And once you build habits, you're going to be able to treat yourself like you love yourself, so you'll love yourself. Oh, crazy. But once you love yourself, you're not going to be the type of person that's not okay sitting alone at lunch. That's not okay going golfing alone. That's not okay going out to a restaurant alone because you love yourself. But it all boils down to mastering the art of showing up, building those habits, loving yourself, and then you'll be okay alone as a byproduct of that.
Yeah, for sure. And this reminds me of an example, and it's not directly related to being alone, but I think a lot of people could take a lot from this. So my friend Dalton and I, we getting in college, I've been weightlifting for probably like 4 or 5 years now, and he wanted to start to get into weightlifting, and unknowingly, for the first couple of weeks of college, he was my roommate, we would always go to Big Sky together, right? He got a membership, and I pushed this man to the absolute limit every single time, right? And at first, he hung with me like the entire time, but he ended up getting burned out, right? And he ended up not going for like a long time after that, right? And so, as time, a couple years go by, like pandemic, whatever. He moves back on campus last year around this time, and he comes up to me, he's like, dude, I want to start working out again. And I'm just like, I told him, and I was like, all right, dude, listen. I think I'll go with this other part first. So I was just like, okay, let's just start off slow, right? Just come, do the major compound lift with me and leave, right? That's all I need you to do, right? And so slowly, as time went on, Dalton was able to start. He would just come, leave. He would show up, right? Just establish that habit, got in the habit of coming to the gym, right? And then as time went on, he slowly pushed himself, right? Yeah. And so what happened from just bench pressing, he would start to do incline bench press with me.
Yep.
After that, he would start to do more machines, more following sets, right? More volume. And then before you know it, at the end of the year, he was doing full workouts with me,
right?
And keeping up with me the entire time. And he was enjoying the workout, and he loved lifting, and he would push himself constantly, and he made a ton of progress.
He showed up every day.
Exactly. And it's very, very important, because especially with someone that welcomes someone into a new environment, right? It's very important to understand where the other person is at, right? They're not on the same level as you, right? In that specific area, right? So I've been working out at that point for probably like a solid 3 or 4 years. He was just he knew how to lift, but he was seriously getting into it for the first time, right? And to demand that much of him is ridiculous. And so just like Greg Doucette says, when you first start to go to the gym, you should just be going through the motions, right? Just show up, right? Because you just have to get in the habit of showing up, getting in the routine, right? And over time, you'll be able to start layering on more difficulty, right? And it won't feel as much mental effort, and you'll actually start to enjoy it, right? So I think paralleling this back to, or bringing this back to the episode, when it comes, like you said before, when it comes to being alone, right? Just do something small, right? Just start with baby steps, right? Just go on a walk by yourself, right? You could have your earbuds in, right? And you're going to feel, and you will feel probably insecure about maybe what other people think of you, right? Your neighbors, right? Just whether it be sitting outside in your backyard alone, right? Or, just something small by yourself, right? That gets you in the habit and making you feeling more comfortable. It's not that you have to go out to eat by yourself or go golfing by yourself or go on a whole trip by yourself. I mean, I even have a hard time just thinking about the idea of going to a restaurant alone, right? Like, that's just not normal for me, and I could easily do it. I know I could. Would it be a little bit of a hurdle? Absolutely. But it's just doing something small that makes you feel comfortable over time with trying new things by yourself.
Right. And I mean, but here's the thing that you really need to get drilled into your fucking brain. What is your goal here? Yeah. Right? Because you look at somebody that says, I don't want to just, show up to the gym for 5 minutes a day, every single day for a month. I'm going to go and I'm going to work my ass off. It's like, your goal isn't to work out for a week and then never work out for the rest of the year until you set another New Year's resolution. Your goal is to get into shape. And so you either take path A, which is work out for a week and then never again, or path B, which is go to the gym for 5 minutes a day, every day for a month, for a whole month. And then the next month, maybe it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but you gradually progress. Yep. And that's the only way to get in shape. Yep. Stop trying your stupid fucking idea that you keep trying and failing over and over again. That's called insanity. Yeah. You're not changing. You're not changing anything. Your outcome has been sitting on the shelf collecting dust for every New Year's resolution since the 80s. Try something new. The only thing that's going to work is developing the habit of showing up every fucking day. And after that's been done, then you can add on. Yeah. But people have this idea in their head that they're too good for that they can do more than that. Well, you've been fat for 10 years. Sorry. It doesn't work. You need to drop your ego, which is telling you, I'm too good to just show up for 5 minutes a day. I'm scared of the judgment from other people. Stay fat. Like, I don't have anything for you. And I have the conversation with my clients every single day about this. It's the number one thing, which is half the time it comes down to they don't love themselves. So they need to master the art of showing up so they can develop a habit. And then they'll love themselves. But you're not going to start feeling that self-love a year and a half, 2 years down the road.
Yeah. It's a long time. Yeah.
But that's the only way you can do it. Yeah. And if you want to love yourself, if that's your actual outcome, you have to start showing up to the gym for 5 minutes a day and no more.
Yeah. And I think a big point to make here is loving yourself is not like, oh my God, like, oh, Cal, no matter what happens, I'm here for you. No, it's about acting authentically, right?
Yeah.
And just embodying that, right? Like,
and feeling okay doing that.
Feeling okay doing that. And over time, as a byproduct, right? Like, you've developed the right habits, like going to the gym, eating right, like doing all these different types of things, right? You're improving your life and you're meeting your standards, right? And as a byproduct of that, you start to feel secure about yourself and not care about what other people think. And I think that's important to me because I think a lot of people with self-love, they think it's a thinking thing. Yeah, it's an action. Yeah. It's like positive affirmations constantly, which definitely can be a part of it. But like, I just think, people think that it's just about constantly being positive, right? And always responding positively,
right? But positive
to yourself and never hating yourself, and like accurately depicting who you are and like what your faults are.
Exactly. But positive affirmations only work when you're affirming what's real. If you're at a point in your life where you've been exercising and taking care of your health and you still hate the way your body looks, then let's talk about positive affirmations because that's just going to work for you because you work your ass off. You're giving it your all. You're trying your best to be in good shape and you've been doing it for a long time. If you still hate your body, then it's a mental shift. But that conversation's for almost nobody. Don't fucking worry about that conversation until you've been working out for 2 years. How about that? Yeah. Until you've been taking care of your body for 2 years, I don't want you to hear you saying like, I just should start affirming positive things about my body. No. If you haven't earned it, you're not at that level yet. You're not. Yeah. If you still hate your body after 2 years, which most people won't, some people do, and I've seen some of those cases, but most of the time you're gonna be like, oh no, I don't hate my body. I actually love my body now. It looks great now that I'm taking care of it and eating right. Yeah. Oh, wow, really? That's craziness.
And it's not even like because I don't know, a lot of bodybuilders and people that work out, like they always think they can improve themselves, right? Like for me, right, I could definitely have bigger arms, right? Like I mean, every body part I wish was bigger, right? Every body part. But yeah, like pause.
Sorry.
Real quick. Okay, no. But yeah, every bodybuilder's like, oh man, I'm always like that, and they're never satisfied, right? But it's also at the same time too, like no, like it's just in their mind, like they.
I know, but like I get what you're saying, but there's a lot of times where like there's blissful dissatisfaction.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. So
I'm
like,
just better at that than you are.
I have 260,000 followers on.
It's close to. It's more than that. Sorry. I'm
Get
sorry.
it right. But they feel insecure. No, they feel like that improvement on the surface, right? But deep down within them, and subconsciously, consciously, they know they're fit, right? They know they're in shape. They know what they're doing is right? So as a byproduct of that, they're able to attract that self-love into their life. And don't get me wrong, there's the cases where bodybuilders feel completely inadequate due to comparing and just judgment, right? But as time goes on, and I've only found this in my own case, that comparison, that judgment,
that's where it's a mental shift.
Yeah.
That's where positive affirmations come in very handy. For someone like you, that you've been taking care of yourself and eating healthy for years, consistently for years. If you still don't like your body and still hate yourself, then it's a mental thing. It's no longer of you should start taking care of your body and then we'll get there thing. It's a actual mental thing. When you get to the gym, break the habit of habitually thinking, I'm smaller than him, I'm smaller than him, I'm smaller than him, and build the new habit of, I'm better than I was 2 years ago, right? Build that mental shift, and then things will be okay, right? But until you've gotten to the point of,
sorry,
that's good. Until you've gotten to the point of, you have those habits well established, you can't until you get to that point, your brain and your body are not going to be in coherence because you're not in alignment with whatever it is that you're saying, and you fucking know it because you don't live that out.
Yeah. And I think who you are is dependent on your habits, right? And a lot of the times when we have certain habits and behaviors that aren't necessarily in alignment with who we want to be, right? And especially when you're on that track of whether it be going to the gym, eating right, or just being that ideal person in your head, it's really just about that shift of focus, right? It's whether it be you're already 2 years in or you're just starting, right?
Right.
It's about shifting that focus from the entire image. Like if you're at the beginning stage, it's about shifting your focus from that ideal state that you want to be in to the baby steps that you could start to take while keeping in mind the ultimate goal, which is to, become more fit, and show up, develop these habits and behaviors, right? I don't think necessarily the goal should be self-love, right? I think that should be a byproduct, even though it could be a goal. But I think that's a lot harder, and I think it's easier if you do it just the habits way.
Right.
Or you're 2 years down the road, right? And you find that you still hate yourself. And like you said before, it's that mental shift, right? And it's just really that shift of focus, right? Shift of focus from stop comparing yourself to others, right? And just comparing yourself to who you were 2 years ago, right? Like, look how far you've come, right? Look at how far you're going, right? Like, look at the habits that you've developed. And if you continue on this track, who you develop into, right. And as a byproduct, you'll be you're already daily, and it will feel effortless that you'll be meeting that standard, right? And you'll constantly be upping that standard little by little,
right?
Through progressive overload.
Well, it's like, how are you supposed to positively affirm to yourself that you love yourself when you don't treat yourself like you love yourself? It just doesn't make any fucking sense. And until you've spent enough time developing habits and treating yourself like you love yourself, affirming I love me, I love me, I love me, isn't going to do anything. It's not. I love me. Because it's not the truth. Because what truth means is actions. It's not through thoughts. It's not through thinking yourself to believe that you love your body or you love whatever it is that you're trying to develop self-love in. Until you develop those habits, affirmations aren't going to do anything for you.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode 53 in the books.
Of the Conscious Cast.
I'm your host, Cal, along with my other boy, Mr. Dr. Jason / Scalora.
Whatever.
What?
Whatever.
Or redo it?
No.
All right, fine. We'll redo it.
Hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode 53 of the Conscious Cast. I'm your host, Cal.
I wanted to say Conscious Cast. Do it again.
Fine, you bitch. All right.
I want to say Conscious Cast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode 53 of the
Conscious Cast.
I'm your host, Cal, like my other boy, Mr. Jason Scalora. Where can I find you, my man?
Jason Score, JSONSEALORA. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
All right, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We are clocking out. Love yourself because I love you.
Stay handsome.
Peace.